Not many people know the history or the background of the Balkans. They hear about the constant war and conflict that arises there from time to time. To fully understand the reasons behind all the wars, I will try and take you back and look at the history and philosophical views that Albanians have held over time, how it has been influenced by every occupation, and how it has brought the Albanians apart physically, but has united them in spirit. Prior to the 19th century, the inhabitants living in the region known today as the Balkans were the Illyrians. The ancestors of these inhabitants that are living today are called Albanians. The Illyrians were known as a pagan people. They were known to believe in many gods. According to Kamarna sightseeing group in Croatia, Illyrians believed in the life-giving Great Mother. They also believed in the sun, which was later adapted into the god of the sun, Apollo, by the Greeks. The Illyrians also believed in the snake. It was believed to be the protector of warriors and the dead. That is why the snake was condemned by the Catholic Church. The Illyrians also worshipped the earth and its ancestors. Archaeological evidence proves that. Many historians believe that the Albanians are descendants of the ancient Illyrians. Albanians were divided into many different tribes, just like the Illyrians. According to R. Ernest Dupy and Trevor N. Dupy of Encyclopedia Britannica, the name Albania is derived from the Illyrian tribe called Arber, Arbarash, or later Albanoi, who lived in Durbs. The Illyrians appeared in the Balkans 1,000 years BC, the year at which the Bronze Age ended and Iron Age began. The Illyrians occupied land extending from the Danube, Sava, and Morava rivers to the Adriatic Sea and Zar Mountains. Sometimes the Illyrians would also travel across the sea and go to Italy. They were known for their ability to build great ships. The Illyrians were neighbors to the Romans and Greeks, but unlike them who strived for power and conquering new land, the Illyrians were peaceful people. But the peaceful people always stand in someone's way, even though they don't do anything. According to G. Richard Jansen of Colorado University, Alexander the Great conquered Illyria 300 years BC. Kosovo became part of the Roman province of Dardania in the 4th century AD. The Slavs moved into the Balkans by the 6th century by crossing the Danube River. The migration of the Slavs in the Balkans weakened the Byzantine Empire so much that the Illyrians living at the Adriatic were forced to move to the region known today as Kosovo. That was the beginning of a century-long war between Slavs and Albanians. G. Richard Jansen of Colorado State University says that the language spoken by these people became known as Albanian, and the culture became affiliated with the Byzantium after the split of the Catholic Church into eastern and western branches in 1054. The Slavs that moved into the Balkans divided into 3 groups: Slovens, Croats, and Serbs. This is the same division between them that exists today. All Kosovo and parts of today's northern Albania fell under the rule of a Slavic power by the 12th century. The region of Kosovo became the cultural center for Serbs at that time, and there were a great deal of churches built there. That is the reason why today's Serbs say that Kosovo belongs to them, and they use the existence of those buildings as proof. The Serbs ruled over Kosovo for the next 200 years under the Nemanjic dynasty. It wasn't until 1389, at the Battle of Kosovo Polje, or Vushkosova, that the Ottoman Empire took over Kosovo after winning the battle. After the Ottoman Empire took over the region, many Albanians returned to Kosovo. At the time of the occupation, most of the Albanians were Christian, since the Roman Empire took over their lands after defeating the Queen Teuta. After the Turks invaded, many Albanians were forced to convert to Islam. Many did in fact convert, but they always were loyal to their own identity. That is one of the biggest reasons why so many traditions and the language were preserved and survived the occupations of the centuries. One example of this is the Albanian hero George Kastrioti Skanderbeu. He was taken away from his family when he was 8 and trained in the military of the Ottoman Empire, but at the end, when he had a chance many years later, he returned to Albania with 200 Albanian men to serve his country, and he successfully defeated the Ottomans in battle. The Serbs were not affected by the Islamic religion, mostly due to the presence of many Orthodox churches and their activities in Kosovo. In the late 17th century, many Serbs left Kosovo because of the many victories of the Ottomans in battle. When the Serbs moved, Kosovo became underpopulated, and many Albanians from northern Albania moved back to Kosovo. At this time, Albanians living in Kosovo were both Muslim and Christian. According to Richard Jansen of Colorado State University, during the reign of the Ottoman Empire, Serb Christians and Jews were given special status, that is the status of Dima. According to him, this status was given to Jews at the oasis of Kosovars in the 7th century by the Prophet Muhammad in Arabia. This rule remained until the emancipation of the Turks by the European powers in the middle of the late 19th century. According to Jensen, facts show that the oppression of the Christians and Jews was only moderated after 1912, after the First Balkan War. Albania declared independence in 1912 in Vlora. After the liberation of Albania, Kosovars decided to create the League of Prizren, or Lidija Prizrenit. This league was created with the intention of fighting the Turks. It mostly consisted of Albanian members, but the Albanians were too weak to fight on their own. Therefore, some Serbs and Macedonians also participated in this league. The Albanian intellectuals participating in this league were inspired by ideas of the European Renaissance. They were interested in unifying Albanian people by creating a Great Albania, or Shqipëria e Bashkuar. According to Richard Jansen, with the weakening of the Ottoman Empire, the league gained a great deal of autonomy. Serbia was granted independence in 1898 at the Treaty of San Stefano. In 1878, at the Congress of Berlin, all land inhabited by Albanians was returned to the Ottoman Empire. When the Young Turks took over the Albanian territories, they were opposed to any sort of autonomy for them. When the Montenegrins, Serbs, Bulgarians, and Greeks attacked Albania, Albanians were forced to form a coalition with the Turks, but Kosovo fell under the rule of Serbia once more. At the Conference of Ambassadors in London in 1912, Serbia was given official sovereignty over Kosovo. On the other hand, Albania's independence was internationally recognized. During World War II, Kosovo, as a part of Serbia, was occupied by Germans. Albanians saved many Jews from the Nazis. According to Jensen, after World War II, Kosovars asked for autonomy and Serbia considered the status of Peasant Republic of Kosovo. But that promise was not honored because Serbia was moving towards a communist way of politics. At the time, Tito was in power of the Communist Party in Serbia. He favored Kosovo as being part of Serbia for political reasons. He used Albanians and other ethnic groups to put him in power, then disarmed them by using brutal means such as massacring and disarming them by going door to door. In 1946, the Yugoslav constitution did not grant autonomy to Kosovo and only 5 nationalities were recognized within the federation. Tito made his first visit to Kosovo in 1967. Albanians were not happy with their status, and a sense of nationalistic uprising grew stronger. This drove the federation to elevate Kosovo to the status of the other federations. According to Jensen, Tito decided to help with the development of the economy and the education of the Albanians. The other federations were not very happy about this. They felt that this was draining their resources. Tito died in 1980. At this time, the region was very destabilized. Albanians were appreciative of Tito and what he tried to do for them, even though they knew well that he was doing it for mostly selfish reasons that I will not discuss here. After his death, students at the University of Pristina were frustrated by the negligence they received. The university was overcrowded. Jensen states that 28% of the population of Kosovo was students. At this time, the university was considered as the hotbed for nationalism, which was quite true. The Albanian people felt they were being pushed too far and treated unfair in their own land. They at least expected proper education. Jensen tells us that, interestingly, at this time, some Serbian intellectuals called for the revocation of the autonomy of Kosovo and for the de-Albanization of Kosovo. Kosovars were tired of the suppression. They knew that they want what they wanted, and they